Hey everyone, my name is Vishwas, and in this video, I will show you how to level up as a web developer using ChatGPT. I will walk you through a variety of prompts and strategies that will help you speed up your web development workflow. From learning concepts to preparing for interviews, you'll find everything you need to make the most of AI as a web developer. First up, let's talk about code generation. ChatGPT can quickly generate code for a variety of web development tasks, freeing up your time and helping you be more efficient. Let's look at some examples. Throughout the video, I'm going to be copy-pasting prompts to save us some time. For the first prompt, generate a semantic HTML and Tailwind CSS contact support form consisting of the user's name, email, issue type, and message. The form elements should be stacked vertically and placed inside a card. Press enter. And we have the code in a matter of few seconds. If we copy paste this code in play.tailwindcss.com, you can see the UI is pretty good. We have a contact support form with name, email, issue type, the message field, and a submit button placed within a card. You're always welcome to make modifications as per your requirements. For the second prompt on code generation, I'm going to copy-paste, write a JavaScript function. It accepts full name as input and returns avatar letters. Press enter. And we can see the code being generated with comments as well. If we were to pass in John Doe as the input, we would get back JD. Perfect for displaying full names as avatars. For the third prompt, write an Express.js API to fetch the current user's profile information. It should make use of MongoDB. Press enter. And you get a step-by-step instruction on what has to be done. This, if you ask me, is incredible. You can always modify the code to make it work in your project. But code generation, as you can see, is a really good use case if you are a web developer. Next, let's take a look at code conversion. As a developer, you might have to work with code that is written in different languages or frameworks. With ChatGPT, you can easily convert code snippets from one language or framework to another. With TypeScript becoming more mainstream, a perfect use case of code conversion is to convert JavaScript code to TypeScript code. Back in ChatGPT, I'm going to paste my new prompt. Let me read out the prompt. Convert the below code snippet from JavaScript to TypeScript. And you can see it's a function called non-repeating words, which accepts two strings as input and returns words which occur only once in the two strings. A simple JavaScript function. When I press enter, we can see the conversion in progress. The parameter types, the function return type, which is an array of strings, types for variables or constants have all been added. You can even convert code that uses a particular CSS framework like Bootstrap to use a different framework like Tailwind CSS. Try it out and let me know if it worked for you. Now, code conversion is great, but sometimes you may want to take a step back and understand a piece of code. Well, ChatGPT can help with that by providing an explanation or answering specific questions about any code snippet you share. This can especially be useful when working with code written by other developers or when trying to understand complex pieces of code. For example, let's assume this very code from our previous prompt was written by a teammate and we are struggling to understand the logic. What we can do is create a new prompt. Explain the following snippet of TypeScript code, colon, and I'm going to paste the code block. You can see ChatGPT gives a really good explanation of the code. It talks about the purpose of the function, which is to find and return all the words that occur only once in string 1 and string 2, about the map object to store the frequency count of each word in the concatenated string, about the logic with split method, about the frequency count for each word being used to find all the words that occur only once, and finally, the result array being returned. As you can see, it is pretty surprising how much we can understand with just ChatGPT's help. For the next section, let's take a look at code reviews. Reviewing code is an essential aspect of software development, and it can often be difficult to catch every potential issue when you're working alone. ChatGPT can review your code to make it better and more efficient. Let me show you an example. I'm going to copy-paste the next prompt. The prompt reads, "Review the following HTML and JavaScript code for code smells and suggest improvements." Now, this is an HTML block. We have a function called search, which gets the input element value, and we update search results inner HTML with what the user inputs. Within the body tag, we have an h1 search page, an input of type text with ID is equal to search box, a button on click of which we call the search function from above, and finally a div with ID is equal to search results, whose inner HTML we update with the query. Really simple. Press enter, and you can see ChatGPT providing suggestions on how to improve. First, we have a section on unsanitized user input, which makes it possible for XSS attacks, about separating JavaScript code into external files or using event listeners, which can improve the readability and maintainability of the code, and finally, about lack of error handling. It also generates the code addressing the issues. So we have a function to sanitize the input and an event listener on the search button. This is pretty cool if you ask me. On that note, let's proceed to the next section on refactoring code. Now, I'm guilty of this, but let me ask you a question. Have you ever written a comment to do refactor this code and never got to it? If you have, let me tell you, ChatGPT can help reduce that by suggesting ways to refactor and improve the code without having to spend too much time or effort. Let me show you an example. For the next prompt, we have refactor the given React code to smaller components and improve error handling. Now, what is the component? It's a list component which maps over a list of people, and for each person, it renders the image, which is basically the person's avatar, their name, profession, and what they're known for. It returns an unordered list of the people in that format. The intention is to refactor the code into smaller components and add basic error handling. When I press enter, you can see the list item has been refactored into a separate person component. There is also very basic error handling in place. The person list component has been updated to make use of the person component. The all-important key prop has also been added by ChatGPT, something that could potentially cause issues if you're manipulating the list. Now, refactor doesn't have to be just refactoring to smaller functions or components. You can ask ChatGPT to refactor and improve performance, make a component responsive across various devices, rename variables and functions to be more meaningful, and even simplify complex conditionals to improve readability. I'm pretty sure you already have some code you would like ChatGPT to refactor. Apart from refactoring, you can also ask ChatGPT to identify and fix bugs in your code. Let me show you an example. For the next prompt, are there bugs in the following JavaScript code? Let number is equal to 5 If number modulus 2 is equal to 0, we log the number is even, else the number is odd. It's a very simple logical error where we've used the assignment operator instead of double or triple equals. When I press enter, ChatGPT will identify just that. Logical errors are hard to find as they don't throw any errors, just an incorrect result. ChatGPT is really useful in such scenarios. And not just that, if you come across an error, paste the error along with the code and ask ChatGPT to explain what the error is and what should be done to fix that error. It works to a good extent. For the next section, let's talk about testing. ChatGPT can assist you in writing unit tests and generating a list of test cases for manual testing. For example, let me paste my new prompt. Write unit tests for the below JavaScript function using jest as the testing framework. And the function is the same non-repeating words function from before. Press enter, and you can see ChatGPT provides us with 4 different tests which cover a good number of scenarios for the given code. You can use a similar prompt to write unit tests for React components with Jest or VTest and React testing library as well. Although, please pay attention to how user events are triggered, as they seem to be a little out of date. For our second testing example, generate a list of test cases to manually test user registration in a web or mobile application. Press enter, and ChatGPT starts giving you the test cases to manually test the registration flow. This is really helpful for you to manually test the code you write before handing it over to the QA team. Moving on to the next section, let's talk about shell commands. As a developer, you are not limited to only writing code. ChatGPT can assist with shell commands and version control using Git. Let me show you some examples. First, write a shell command to delete all files with the extension .log in the logs folder. Press enter, and we see the command. Let's look at an example with Git. Write a Git command to undo the previous commit. Once again, we receive the command. There's also good explanation for you to understand. If you have a specific command in mind, we can also ask ChatGPT to provide an explanation. So explain the following command: git switch -c feature/Next.js app router. You can see it creates a new branch and switches to it. There's also a breakdown of the command, which is really cool. A really good use case is those Stack Overflow answers which work, but there is no proper explanation of the command. ChatGPT is your friend. All right, for the next section, let's take a look at another topic we generally struggle with, which is regular expressions. With ChatGPT, you can understand complex regular expressions and generate ones that match specific patterns in text. Once again, let's go over a few examples. For the prompt, explain this regular expression in JavaScript. And I have a regular expression just below. Press enter. And ChatGPT gives a good explanation of the regex. Really helpful when you see code directly using regex in if conditions without a constant name that appropriately describes what the pattern is. Of course, if you have a specific pattern in mind, for example, phone number, you can ask ChatGPT to give you a regex matching that pattern. You have to be a little more specific with the prompt so that the regex can be used properly. Let me copy-paste the prompt, which says, your role is to generate regular expressions that match specific patterns in text. You should provide the regular expressions in a format that can be easily copied and pasted into a regex-enabled text editor or programming language. Generate a regular expression that matches the US phone number format. Press enter, and we see the result. We also have a few examples of matching phone numbers. However, I would still recommend running tests on this regex to confirm if it is indeed what you want. For the penultimate section in this video, let's discuss about resumes and cover letters. Crafting a compelling and polished resume and cover letter can be a daunting task, but with the help of ChatGPT, it doesn't have to be. ChatGPT will adhere closely to any character or word limits as well. Now, I will not be running the following prompts myself, but let me show you how to write the prompt. First, we can ask ChatGPT to write a LinkedIn about or summary section using a resume. So the prompt is write a LinkedIn about section using my resume, and you can go ahead and paste your resume. That is followed by use the keywords and specify a list of comma-separated keywords. Finally, write in the first person and use a friendly tone of voice. Do not exceed 2,600 characters, which is, I believe, the current limit for LinkedIn summaries. This should generate a good LinkedIn summary you can add to your LinkedIn profile. The second example, you can ask ChatGPT to write a great cover letter. Here's the prompt. I want you to act as a cover letter writer. I will provide you with my resume, and you will generate a cover letter to complement it. I want the cover letter to have a more adjective tone, for example, a friendly tone, as I will be applying to a dash type of company. So if it's a startup and more informal, you can specify that. Next, we have following is my resume, and you paste your resume. And finally, following is the job description, and you can paste the job description to which you're applying for. This will give you a really good tailor-made cover letter. Finally, you can ask ChatGPT to enhance your resume for a specific job role. Paste your resume and then type enhance my resume based on this title position, so senior software engineer, for example, at a specific company, builder.io, for example, and include bullet point achievements that show impact and metrics. This should give you a decent resume for you to send out to the company. For the final section in this video, let's talk about interview preparation. With ChatGPT's assistance, you can be well prepared for your upcoming job interview. Let's go through some examples. Of course, this is an example prompt. And the prompt says, I have an interview with Google for senior software engineer. Help me with answers to the following questions. Information on the company, the industry, and its competitors, the culture of the company, questions I can ask at the end of the interview. Press enter. And you can see ChatGPT giving you what should be the important points about Google. For the second prompt, I'm going to paste, I am interviewing for a senior React developer role. Please list down the 10 most asked interview questions for a senior React engineer position. Press enter. And you can see ChatGPT asks you 10 questions. Now, I wouldn't say these are the best questions that you can prepare for, but it's a good start. You should also be prepared for questions based on the projects you have in your resume and not generic questions that ChatGPT can give for you. But it's a good starting point. What you can do, though, is paste the job role when asking this question. I am interviewing for a senior React engineer role. Please generate 10 interview questions that are specific to the job role posted below, and then go ahead and paste the job role. It will narrow down the questions to the skills listed in the job role details. Now, I did say last section, but let me include a bonus section. And this is a straightforward section on learning. In web development, learning never stops. Whether it's learning new programming languages, understanding best practices, or improving website performance, ChatGPT has you covered. For example, what are some best practices for writing clean and maintainable code in React? Press enter, and ChatGPT will give you some good advice. List here is actually decent. Use a consistent folder structure, write modular components, so break down your components into smaller reusable pieces. Use descriptive naming conventions, avoid complex logic in render methods, keep state management simple, which is a really good advice. Use prop types and default props, write clean and readable code, use pure components to prevent unnecessary re-renders, write tests, use linters and code formatters. Solid advice all around. You can ask a lot more than just best practices. Here's the next example. What are the steps to create a Next.js blog application with the following requirements? A listing page of all articles, a detailed page where you can read the article, an About Me page, links to social media profiles, and it should be performant. Press enter. And you can see ChatGPT sort of walks you through how to create a brand new project that meets all these requirements. Starts with how to create a new Next.js application, installing the required dependencies, creating the content in Markdown format. It knows about Next.js pages routing, about getStaticProps method, about the detail page, which requires dynamic routing, about getStaticPaths, About Me page using getStaticProps again, building these social media links with a specific component, optimizing the performance using the image component, and a lot more. The response did reach the character limit, but you can ask ChatGPT to continue from where it left off. As you can see, you can easily level up as a web developer with ChatGPT. But please keep this in mind. Although ChatGPT is a powerful tool, it can't substitute your own knowledge and skills. You should fact check any research it does for you. But like I mentioned, 90% of the time, ChatGPT gives you a great head start to complete your task. Thank you for watching. Please do consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.